My name is Trayton Ledoux. I'm a copywriter here at Cougar Software, and I specialize in marketing the benefits of Denali BI.
And I'm Hadley Lloyd. I'm our Crystal Reports writer, and I'm also our Denali BI dashboards and Elastic Cube creator.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about how business intelligence guides business decisions. All right, so to give you an idea of what this webinar is about, here are 4 key sections we'll be covering today. The first section will be what is business intelligence and how it can help your organization. The second will cover why Denali BI is great for nonprofits as well as businesses. Then we'll give an example of a struggling nonprofit and how through the use of business intelligence, they're able to overcome their problems and meet their goals. And then finally, we'll wrap up with taking some questions that any of you might have. So if you can withhold any questions until then, we'll get around to answering them toward the end. So in this slide, we want to show you how relevant business intelligence has become in the marketplace with a few important statistics that we think you should know. First of all, companies using business intelligence are able to make decisions at 5 times the rate of those without. That's definitely one of the more important reasons why businesses are turning to BI. Being able to make faster decisions means you can stay ahead of any issue before it grows into a much larger problem. Second is in 2018, businesses with less than 100 employees had a higher adoption rate of business intelligence. Most of these businesses were able to do it with next to no budget. And I think that this challenges the idea that business intelligence is only for large businesses, when really smaller businesses have been seeing the profitability in this market just as much. So then finally, according to MarketWatch, business intelligence will be a $147 billion market by 2025. That's opposed to a $17 billion market that it was in 2016. And that's a 750% increase in under 10 years, which is to say that businesses will rely heavily on the benefits of BI in the future. So now we turn to what exactly is business intelligence. So our definition is through the use of easy to read charts, graphs, and summaries. Business intelligence lends insight for those in management and corporate to make more informed decisions at a faster rate. And then when we break that down, some of the benefits are that can help you stay on top of current trends. It can also help with customer relations and inform you about what customers are buying and what they expect from you as a business. It can also give you insight into a category of things, namely opportunities and decision making, and we'll touch more on those in later slides, those benefits. And then finally, business intelligence uses what's known as big data. Big data is essentially a makeup of all your company's data from programs like Google Analytics, CRMs, social media, and pretty much anything that your company or organization has that stores data. So with that stored data, BI can tell you in real time where your organization is at, how it's performing, what areas might be lacking in their performance, if you're meeting your goals, pretty much anything that can tell you what's right and what's wrong within your organization. So then moving on to our next slide, we'll talk a little bit about Denali BI. Denali Business Intelligence is a software that we've designed here at Cougar Mountain Software. It can be paired with our Denali Fund accounting program. Denali Fund is designed specifically for nonprofits. And what's important to note is that our business intelligence is not just for for-profit businesses. It's also built for nonprofits as well. It uses true fund accounting principles and is both GAAP and FASB compliant, both of which are extremely important for nonprofits. So then when it comes to business intelligence, there are 3 key benefits. The big 3 are that it reveals opportunities, it influences decisions, and it maximizes productivity. So beginning with revealing opportunities, for nonprofits, you can find areas where you have donors that you weren't aware of and look for solutions to involve them more with your cause. You can find ways to engage donors more with your mission. And with a business, you can see the performance of your company in real time, so you can find the areas of where your profitability are at and what areas you can gain more profit in. And then next is influencing decisions. And like I said in one of the previous slides, businesses who use BI at the center of their decision-making process are able to make decisions at a much faster rate than their competition. I can't really stress that fact enough, because in today's world, there's a lot of competition. Even with nonprofits, you have to compete with 500,000 other nonprofits out there to bring in more donations. So being able to find opportunities and make those decisions immediately is very important. And then finally, we have maximizing productivity. And with BI, you can see which departments in your company or organization might be lacking. As a nonprofit, you might be spending too much on a campaign that isn't as efficient. If that's the case, you can cut the campaign, repurpose it, or do something that starts to have more positive results. So then in this next section, I'm going to turn it over to my co-host, Hadley, and he has the most experience working with BI hands-on.
All right, so today we're going to kind of look at an example here of a nonprofit from the Ada County area, specifically here in Boise. Mainly they rely on 3 specific funding methods, 3 different campaigns that they really rely on to get their funding. They have their mailing list, their corporate sponsorships, and their gala. The third one there does say referrals, which is a newer one that they're starting to track. Since we've kind of incorporated Denali BI. So their gala is really their biggest event that they do. It's one of their biggest revenue generators. So it's really something that they focus. So each year they try to have around 700 ticket sales, averaging about $50 a piece. So they're really shooting for a $35,000 revenue gain from this specific event. And kind of what they've been noticing is that they've been underachieving in that specific example. So when they came to us, they kind of wanted to bring that up and say, hey, these are our 3 main things that we're looking at, and how can we go through and maybe drive our revenue and help increase our actual gains, our donations. So when they came to us and brought that up to us, we decided to build them a dashboard. This is what a dashboard pretty much looks like. Could be different for each individual company, however you guys as clients would need to have them built. So what we came up with for them, these 3 key performance indicators up here are just to track the actual revenue gains from each one of those campaigns. So we can see here we have mail pledges at $85.50, gala ticket sales at $30,610, and corporate sponsorships for $6,050. A quick note too, this is specifically right now looking at last year in February. We don't have data in there from prior, so this little note under here that says past year mail pledges, it doesn't show anything. The data set that we're looking at just doesn't have it in there. But as we move forward in this presentation, we'll see those populate when we look at the current year. And then over here, we're also filtering in just those specific revenue generators, the corporate sponsorships, the gala ticket sales, and the mail pledges. This middle widget here is just a pretty simple line chart. Right now, as we said, we were looking at just February of 18, so we can see that's just through the whole month. And then these different lines and bars go back up and correlate to the same color that they're representing. So we have the gala ticket sales of $30,610. We can see that tracking over time, day by day, what the sales were on a daily limit. And then we can do the same with mail pledges. Look at the orange up here down to the orange line. Any gaps that we have in there just means that there wasn't a sale in this case on 2/17. And then with the corporate sponsorships being kind of hit or miss on a day-by-day transaction level, we decided to put those in as columns so we can see it a little easier as we look at this specific chart. Down here we have a heat map. Basically this is just looking at revenue gained by city in the area. So here we have Boise, here's the surrounding areas down to Caldwell, that would be Canyon County, Caldwell, Nampa, and then we have Ada County here with these 3 little bubbles. basically this just looks and tells you how much revenue you brought in. So in this case, we're looking between corporate sponsorships, gala ticket sales, and the mailing list. This is all of the revenue for those 3 different campaigns in each of these areas. So we can see that Boise was $21,000 overall, Nampa $9,700, and Caldwell $6,600. The last widget that we have down here looks at our referrals. So when we're looking at this, we see Kelly's Pet Store, and it just gives us a total number of how many other donations have came from somebody who was referred by this donor. So Kelly's Pet Store is a contributor to them. They've referred 99 other either businesses or individuals to donate to their cause. And then what this widget's set to do currently is just to look at the top 3 that they're looking at. So as we look back up here, their main pain really was that they were coming short on their gala ticket sales. So obviously they needed to increase revenue overall, but they really wanted to make sure that they hit their $35,000 goal. So last year we can see that they were $5,000 under, and we really needed to analyze, what are some places that we can either increase our efficiency or increase our potential gains. And if we go through and we change these filters here and we just look at the mailing campaign, we can see here that the dates kind of change. This widget doesn't really change too much based off that, but the big difference is that our numbers here change from each location, because now we're only looking at total revenue by location for that mailing campaign. So with a quick click, we can just see, okay, Boise had $4,200 coming from the mailing campaign, Nampa $1,300, Caldwell $1,800, and we can see that there's a bit of sales coming from the outside areas here. And what we kind of noticed as we built this and we took a peek at it, they were really surprised to see, how much was coming from these outside areas. Basically, what they would have to do manually if they were looking at a report is they would have to go tally up, how many different user or donations they had coming from these other cities, which is going to take a bunch of time, man hours to go through and find that out. So what we can do now is just with the click of a button, we can look at last year, and we can look at the gala ticket sales and see Boise had $13,000 coming from those gala ticket sales, but Nampa had $8,000. So people from here were driving out to Boise to go see it, and then we had a little bit, $3,400 from Caldwell, making the trip out to see it. Our corporate sponsors as well, we can see mainly we had $3,400 from Boise and $1,400 from Caldwell. So not a whole lot overall, but we still were getting some sponsorships coming from those outside areas. What this really helped us do is notice that, hey, there's potential revenue gains in those outside areas. We could see it really quickly and easily. And ultimately, what it helped them do is decide to change their campaign a little bit for their gala and target the Canyon County area more as a market. So they started marketing out there. They even decided to eventually host the event over there just to see if they can get more ticket sales. They know that there's people willing to donate to them. Their hope kind of was that if they can donate out or host that gala out there, that they would also be able to retain their Boise gala ticket sales and just increase by gaining new ticket sales coming from those outside areas. So one thing that we wanted to do with this also, since we wanted to be able to let them know when there was this donation hit or this goal hit. So since their biggest priority for what we were looking at was hitting the $35,000 goal, we wanted to set an alert so that either the board members or other users could see it without necessarily having to track the dashboard every day. They didn't have to open it up. So with Denali BI, we can add what's called a pulse alert. What that'll do is allow you to set up basically a scheduled email. There's several different types of how you do it. So you could do one that would say look at daily revenue. You can have a couple different ones. So one you can say if we hit over $2,000 in gala ticket sales for one day, send out an email and let us know. You can also set one up that's going to kind of be intuitive and understand your averages. So the more you use it, the more it's going to understand your trends. So if we had that set up on a day-to-day transaction, we can see here if the average was roughly, say, $1,500 over the course of the month. If you had a day like here where there was $3,000, it would send you out an email and say, hey, you did really good. Or if it had a day like 2-1 where there were no there were, there were no sales, no, $605, excuse me. They would say, hey, you're way under your goal. You should take a look at that. If it's something that you can increase or decrease, you might not have control over it. But what we set up was one that was just on a monthly basis. So what that one was is, hey, if we get to our $35,000 goal, send everybody an email, let them know that we hit our goal. And at that point in time, if they wanted to, they could go through and increase the goal to 40,000 or 50,000 or wherever they want it to be, and they can keep updating that. So each time they hit their next goal, they can get notified by that. So now what we're going to do, let's just flip this over. So real quick, we're just going to change it to look at this year's data. So we don't need to see last year anymore. And just real quickly, after we change that filter, we can already see our past year numbers come in. So for the gala specifically, we had $30,000 that they had the previous year. So far through the month, through the 26th, we're at $50,290. So they've clearly hit their $35,000 goal. They've exceeded it by $15,000. A couple other things to note. Over here, the mail pledges went up from 8,550 to 14,250. And they even did increase their corporate sponsorships from 6,000 to 9,000. There's a small bump there. Now, a nice thing that you can quickly do, just by looking at this line chart, we can see specifically that, this week right here was pretty above average. So if we were curious, either A, just to find out what those total numbers were, or maybe try to drill down and find some specifics as to why, we can just click and drag here and let go and hit select. And what that's going to do is select all of those dates that now get that date point plotted onto them, and it's going to reflect our sales. So about half of the sales generated for the gala ticket sales were between the 15th and the 20th. So in a 5-day stretch, they had a real big boost. Now, whether that may have been from doing different hours or something like that to sell those tickets, you could look down and see what maybe is working better for you. Just clear that selection and get our data all set back to where it was. The other thing we can see, let's just look at gala ticket sales specifically here again. We can see now that our Boise, I believe, was about 13,000 previously, so it did take a small bump up to 15,000. But we also noticed that Nampa about doubled. So hosting it out in an area closer to them or marketing it out there helped either get people to come out to the event or raise awareness that they were having an event. The same with Caldwell, it's up to 12,000. I don't remember the prior year's number, but it was significantly lower. If we look at their mail pledges, we can also see a trend here as well. There's a lot of growth in Nampa, a lot of growth in Caldwell. The Boise area, I think that's a slight bump up as well, so they might not have grew too much. So if they were worried that they had gone stale in that market, they've at least now, invented themselves or reintroduced themselves to a new market where they can definitely thrive in, it looks like. And their corporate sponsorships here, we can take a peek. That maybe about doubled, and there was a new 1,500 in Nampa that wasn't there before too, so they've gained that. So quickly we can see with a couple of clicks that there is growth, that they have kind of achieved that. And another thing that's really neat that you can do too with this chart over here, if you wanted to just look at, say, Caldwell, you can click on that button as well, and we can scroll up here and we can see here's all of our numbers just coming from Caldwell. The same thing if we flip this back to last year, that's going to filter the rest of this report or this dashboard down to looking at those same numbers. So even if we didn't look at last year, since we have those last year numbers on there, we can see really quick that this is the growth that we saw, and specifically in Caldwell. So everything went up quite a bit. If we just go back and get rid of our Caldwell filter, we can look at Nampa. And we can see there's our growth there. So yeah, that about doubled. The mail pledges took off really well, and we did gain that 1,500 donation. And oops, I didn't want to click on that. Let's go back and put this to Boise. And we can see, so the gala ticket sales did take a small bump. The sponsorships didn't have any growth, but didn't have any decay either, so that's good. And then there was a slight decrease in mail pledges, so that might be something that they need to, start reevaluating if they marketed too hard to a different area, but they might need to go through and rethink that as well, since that did drop off just a little bit. I don't think there's anything else we need to see in here.
Yeah, looks good. All right. So if we look back at the three key benefits of business intelligence and how they're able to help our nonprofit, we can see where the opportunities were revealed to them, how business intelligence helped influence their decision making, and how they're able to maximize their productivity. So beginning with the opportunities that were revealed, the most helpful was the heat map, I think, where they were able to quickly identify if there was more revenue or donations in outlying areas than expected, specifically in that Canyon County area in Nampa and Caldwell. So this gave them the idea that they should move the gala event to a new location. And in less than a year, they saw the profitability with moving the event, and they made the decision to do that. So when they did, they were able to maximize their productivity. They didn't let their resources go to waste. They increased their corporate sponsors, they increased their ticket sales, and they widened their base of supporters. So all in all, business intelligence improved their outreach and helped their cause.
I do have one other thing that I did miss that I wanted to point out. If we could just hop back over to that.
Yeah, of course.
So on our referrals here, let's take these filters off. Of course, you can see where they're coming from too on the referrals based on that city filter, so that's good to know. But this right here, it was a good opportunity for them to help kind of pick or find out specifically where those referrals are coming from. One of the things I kind of wanted to do with that is then recognize their top contributors to referrals, to either show that at the gala event itself, so raise awareness of either their cause, or just give them a quick shout out, just let them know that they appreciate the donation. And I believe they were even going to hand out some tickets to them, give them some free tickets to it that they could pass out as well to help kind of spread their message. So the benefit of this widget a little more is just the fact that they can turn that into saying, okay, Kelly's Pet Store is bringing in 110 referrals this year. We should do something for them to help keep them, being like a champion for our cause and promoting our mission to help also bring in more revenue from outside sources that you didn't previously have.
All right. So with that said, we'll go ahead and turn the webinar over to answering your questions. Please submit any questions that you have, and we'll go ahead and answer them. All right. So the first question that we have is what are the limitations to the kind of dashboards that you can make?
So there's not a terrible limitation, really. The biggest thing we're going to have is going to be the data. So as long as the data is in a database that can be connected to, we can make most things that you would need. So Denali BI is able to connect to, obviously, SQL Server, which is what Denali runs on. It can connect to MySQL, Google Analytics, Access, Excel, like Oracle, I believe. There's several other data types. So of course, if it was ever a question, like specific question for what data type you're looking to connect to, we could find that out, see if we can make that work. The other thing too is, if we look at new widgets here, we can see that we have several different chart options. So just a number, which is like an indicator, or an indicator is just like a number like we saw at the top of that other dashboard. Pie charts, which can then be also like donuts, so the same function, just a different feel. Column charts, bar charts, line charts, area charts, a long list that we have here of different charts that we can make, as well as there's also some additional plugins that we can add in and use some of those other capabilities if it was a need not pre-built into it.
All right. And then the next one is there someone available to help me learn how to use business intelligence?
Yes, so I would probably be the primary person who would be helping with that. Since I am currently the only person who would be doing support on it, you could get training with it if you just wanted to learn how to use it. You could get training on it if you wanted to learn how to build your own or create your own, connect different data sources, or if you just wanted to learn how to modify existing ones if you either had some created or the default ones that come with the software.
And then it looks like this next one is how hard is it to implement business intelligence?
It's not terribly hard. So typically what we would recommend is that you have our IT staff do an install for you. That's going to take roughly 2 hours, maybe a little longer for the appointment. It takes quite a bit of time for the program just to actually install. From there, since Denali BI does come with 2 pre-built dashboards, you get those 2, so the setup for that doesn't take as long. It's probably another 30 minutes tops. But once that's all ran through, and it's pretty much nothing that you would have to be there for, so it could be done possibly in your off hours or just on a computer or on the server if nobody's working from it. Once we get that set up, it's pretty much done. So since I did mention that Denali BI comes with some pre-built dashboards, I just want to point out here that there is this one's our sales dashboard that comes with the software. So we have some different options. We have some different indicators that we want to look at, line charts, some donut charts here, a different heat map, and then some top items and customers. So this is just looking at our demo data, but the same concept applies if you click on anything. So if we wanted to look at Idaho, all of these different widgets across this dashboard are going to update to reflect Idaho sales numbers. So the same thing is you can come back into here if you wanted to look at, say, just Texas. Now we can look at Texas's numbers. The other dashboard is a financial dashboard that we offer, which is mainly geared towards the GL module. If you have that, you would find some interesting stuff there as well.
All right. And I think that's about it for questions. So, and that pretty much wraps it up for this webinar. I just want to thank everyone for attending. And one last word that I want to add, I guess, before we go is that about a decade ago, the smartphone was released, and people didn't really buy into it at first, but now when you look around, everyone has iPhone or Android, and we couldn't really live without it today. So the way that business intelligence is gaining on the market and how many businesses are starting to incorporate it into their business structure will make the market that much faster to keep up with in the coming years. And so anyways, that's just something to think about, and hopefully this webinar was informative. And if you're interested in business intelligence, please contact your account executive for more details. All right, thank you.